And we are back. Today we're looking at the financials that have come through from some of the leading banks in the country. First half numbers are out. What's happening there? What are the risks? What is the upside? Should you be investing? To help us take a deep dive into this conversation is Mr. Robert Ochieng, who is an independent banking analyst. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Thank you, Mbite.
All right. So I'm sure you've done a lot of work looking at the numbers. What are you seeing so far?
Yes, I have. Actually, the most interesting thing in the half year is looking at the growth in the loan books of banks, which is actually a reversal trend since the rate cap.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we've actually seen banks like CFC Stanbic coming out strongly in terms of the growth of loan book, the growth of their deposit, and even the interest income. Yeah, so that's quite interesting. And even Equity Bank, which previously analysts had criticized for going too much into government securities.
Yes.
So now finally they're back on lending.
Okay.
With a double-digit growth even on interest income.
Okay.
So it's a quite interesting
Very
trend.
interesting
Yes,
trend.
yes, and actually good for the private sector.
Okay.
Yeah, because actually the private sector, they need banks to lend more.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
So is this the first time you're seeing this move? Because this rate cap, it came in 2016 and credit growth has been flat. So is this the first time that you're seeing growth growing in the double digits, or did it start earlier in the year when they were reporting the first quarter 19 numbers?
No, actually it's in the half year.
In the half year?
Yes, yes,
okay.
yes. Looking at the trend, it is quite obvious that there's growth, and banks are now warming up to lending to the private sector, yes.
In Bavaria, they know something about the rate cap that we don't know.
Yeah, sure, it was in the finance bill, so everyone is warming up.
Everybody's warming up to see?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
and what has that meant then for credit that is, not credit, rather deposits that have been reallocated to government securities in terms of bonds?
Yeah, it has gone down for some banks, and generally we've seen even growth in cash that some banks are sitting with.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
And what about deposits? How is that looking? How is that line looking?
Yeah, it is growing, especially for CFC Stanbic.
Okay.
The growth was quite huge.
All right.
Yeah, double digits. Equity Bank, there's also growth, and generally across the industry.
Across the industry.
Yes, except for Stanchart, which we think played defensive for the
very
half
defensive.
year. Yes,
that's very true. Everything was flat.
Yes,
and what about the profitability? Are you happy with the profitability numbers that these banks are reporting for this period?
Yes, yes, very happy. You know, when you look at listed banks, you want to look at resilience first.
Okay.
Yeah, people forget that these are businesses, and a business is just as strong as how it can deal with any headwinds that come along its way. So when we are looking at the rate cap, it was back in 2016, so these banks actually managed to go about this in a very, very clever way.
Okay.
So they're just restructuring their businesses and actually looking at ways of like new areas of growth.
New areas of growth.
Yes,
okay.
so for me, my biggest...
So restructuring and new areas of growth, that has been some of the trend, one of the trends that are coming out.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would say that for me, for any business that I look at, you know, sometimes you get derailed into the shiny things like digital, all that, but you forget that these are businesses. Yeah, so the first thing is actually to be able to position yourself such that if there's any challenge in the market, then you're able to respond to it the way they did on the rate cap.
Okay.
And for some banks like KCB and Equity, if we remember well, back some years back, the challenges in South Sudan market in terms of currencies.
Okay.
Yes, and they're able to manage that and even take hits of as much as 3 billion Kenyan shillings.
Okay.
Yeah, so some businesses, some banks...
So everybody has a different strategy. Okay, so we
yes.
will come to that when you're talking about the individual banks. Maybe one other thing that I wanted to ask about was the non-performing loans and the provisioning charges that are going through the income statements. What was your view on this? What is happening there also with regards to IFRS 9?
Yeah, I think the provisioning has affected some banks because of how it is done. Okay. So it depends on a lot of factors. So that would actually go to in terms of being very unique to each and every bank. Yeah, they write back their banks. So maybe one bank might have some very big loan, but the one that was most affected in terms of provision was actually KCB. KCB, where the provisioning, it grew by more than 2 times actually, from 8 million to around 3 billion.
Do you know what was driving that? Do you have a sense?
Definitely it's just to do with the loan portfolio. like they have to restructure, write back. So so many factors playing, and
so
also
a lot of things happening.
Yes.
Okay, but then what you're saying is that half year numbers are out. You're okay. The growth is moderate, and that's perfectly fine. And you're actually seeing upside with regards to the bank's outlook on risk, because they're actually lending now, and they were not lending maybe 2 years ago. Is that a good way to put what you're saying?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
And also looking at the operating environment, I think they've done quite well.
All right.
Yes.
How is the operating environment? How has that changed from 2016 to date?
If you look at certain factors like inflation rate is higher now than it was last year.
Okay.
And also when you look at things like the currency, the exchange rate of the Kenyan shillings against USD.
All right.
Yeah, so definitely in terms of macro, we are cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic.
The position is not as good as
Are you an economist? I hear that line with all economists. Like, we're cautiously optimistic. They just don't want to say things are bad. So people tend to just defer to cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, for banks, I'm quite optimistic because their business is financial intermediation.
Okay.
And as long as there's trade in the market, people wake up every day to do their jobs, make some money, there'll be opportunities in the market that will require investments, which for banks now, they get deposits from customers, then they lend to the private sector and individuals to grow their businesses.
Interesting. We must talk about the digital transformation in the banking sector, because the banks that have actually reported, we've seen a lot of the business moving from the branch and onto the mobile phone in one way or the other. What are your thoughts on this digital transformation in the sector?
Yes. I think it is quite interesting because we are seeing a lot of growth, especially from big banks, which I believe they have a lot of capital to do this kind of initiatives.
Okay.
So the one that stood out for me was Coop Bank. I think that was very massive in terms of growth, 25% growth in unfunded income.
Wow.
And actually, when you look at the M-Coop Cash application, the numbers grew from 5 billion Kenya shillings to 14 billion Kenya
That's
shillings.
a huge sum.
Yes, in just 1 year.
Okay, and how many people do they have on the platform?
They have over 2 million people.
Over 2 million people?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so they've made an investment in that, and it's actually reaped a good benefit for them in the last 1 year.
Yes, and actually they are currently running a Soaring Eagle strategy, which is actually very strong in terms of digital transformation and restructuring the business and processes. Okay, so what would you say, like from on a scale of 0 to 10, would you say they are closer to 10 in terms of applying this Soaring Eagle strategy, or how would you rank them in that? I think for now I would give them 8. 8. Yeah, 8. Oh, that's a good rank. Yes, because definitely they have a very rich brand, and they have the cooperatives and circles movement. Yeah, so they need to get more of them on board and create more products. Okay. Yes, because Coop Bank and DTB, they are one of those few banks with niche. They're in a niche whereby it's very difficult for you to get their customers. Okay, so they have a closed loop with regards to their customers. Okay, so one line on Coop Bank, you say that the best thing about Coop Bank was the growth in the non-funded income. What was happening on the income that they actually get from the loans, the funded income? How did that grow? For the funded income for Coop, it was flat this time round. Okay. So again, like we said, each bank play a different strategy. Okay. Yeah, so walk us through the cooperative banks, because now I'd like us to just go through the banks that have announced, just to see what you liked, what did you like? Yeah, for Coop, again, I think it's good to play defensive when it is necessary. Okay. Because given the macroeconomic indicators and what we're seeing in the market, if you are a bank that have like a bit of corporate or you lend to big clients, then you need to play defensive at such times. Yeah, so I think Coop did well. Just having a flat loan book growth for 1 year, as you look at the market, is okay. Yeah, sometimes you might just look at growth in terms of growth sake, but when you look at it in the long term, you'll actually find that some of these big banks, they can have even a drop in terms of loan or deposit growth in just a single year, but then they're able to come back in the next year. What about the profit after tax? Were you happy with that growth? Yes, it was flat at 5%. Okay. But I think overall it was okay, yeah. Any dividend that they declared interim? No, they didn't declare any interim dividend. So would you be buying the stock, because it's trading at about 11 to 12 shillings? When you're buying the stock, what would you be buying if you're buying it today? I think for Coop and Barclays, if you look at the dividend yield, then it is quite good.
So you're happy with the dividend yield for Cooperative Bank, and you're happy with the way they're growing the non-funded income?
Yes, I am, because they're a big business, and for them what is important is first to look at what we are doing today and how we can maintain that as we explore other opportunities, which they are doing quite well with.
Okay.
Yes, I think that is important. For me, for banks, I say that you first have to protect what we have now.
That's very important. Capital preservation is key.
Very key. Yes.
Okay, Robert, we shall take a short break. The NSC has just closed. Look out for the closing bell, and we will be back shortly.